Good morning, everybody. You are tuned to Computers 2K Now on the Nissan Communications Network. I'm Amnon, your host for the next few hours, along with Mike.
Hello. Good morning. How are you?
Sorry, I spoke on top of you.
That doesn't matter. I'm used to it.
No, you're not. And Steve is here.
Good morning, everybody.
Our numbers 919-518-9773, Computers 2K Voice on Skype. And this morning's show is being brought to you by Adamas.com, makers of quality video recorders and converters for professionals. And the broadcast is made possible by Telestream's Wirecast software.
And would you look at that? It's May the 3rd.
And today's May the 3rd, yeah. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. There it is. I just added it to the bottom.
Thank you.
You what?
Thank you.
I think Steve needs to move to the
Outer Hebrides?
southern U.S.
Oh, right. Okay.
Why?
because of his accent.
I can only do an American accent from the South.
Oh, I see. Well, but then he wouldn't get free health care.
And then I do that extremely badly as well.
And good morning, everybody that's in the chat. And guys, I know there's a bunch of you out there who are not logged into the chat. Go ahead and log into the chat. Put your name, put the handle, put whatever. I mean, here's one that just put A, which is fine. We just want to know that you're there and you can participate, and you're missing a lot if you don't. Now, if you're listening, if you're not on computers2know.com's page, then yeah, you don't even see the chat.
Take advantage of the availability of being able to be anonymous on the internet. It's not going to happen for much longer. In a couple of years' time, no one will be allowed to be anonymous.
Are you really anonymous now?
Well, as anonymous as A is, yeah. If you tended to look behind the scenes and look at the IP numbers, not quite so much, but to the average other onlooker, A is pretty anonymous, isn't it?
Well, we could get his IP address.
Yeah, but that's the people that are in charge, and that's always the problem.
And then it's usually Gary or Brian.
As long as they're being decent and honorable, then you can't complain, really.
All welcome. All welcome.
So, in the UK, I mean, a lot of things happening in the UK as far as internet. That was
like what?
5 ISPs have been given orders. Listen to that, orders by the UK High Court to restrict access to sites offering downloads of popular movie streaming service Popcorn Time. Steve, you familiar with the story?
I am, yeah.
Why don't you tell us instead of me reading?
Well, I've read two or three stories about it. Popcorn Time is a service that uses BitTorrent, which is the world's evil devil program. as far as the media corporations are concerned. And Popcorn Time uses the BitTorrent transfer system in order to stream movies, TV series, home videos, whatever you want. That's a video, it allows it to stream over the internet. So you're not downloading per se, but you are streaming content. And the media corporations don't like that. And they're doing everything they possibly can to stop anything that is in some way, even in a minuscule way, related to streaming or to downloading. They're trying to stop it. Now, if you take into consideration that this is just a piece of software that allows you to do what you want to do, so no different than a piece of software that converts from Apple iOS music format to MP3, for instance, or to WAV file. It's a piece of software that allows you to do that. You know, it just converts from one to another, or it allows you to access content. The person accessing the content is the person, in theory, that could potentially be breaking the law, not the people that make the software. So by going after the people that make the software and shutting them down, basically cutting them off, there's plenty of legitimate reasons that somebody may want to stream content and use this facility. Yes, there's a lot of reasons for people wanting to do it under the law or not following the law. Yes, but the VCR was, according to them, not following the law at the time when the Sony dispute was going on, but they deemed it as being had enough alternative uses to enable the VCR to exist. Imagine the state we'd be in now if we didn't have a video cassette recorders. Imagine the state of the entertainment industry had that not have gone through as it did. Shocking.
Shocking. But
well, it's like saying if Ford were to say did a deal with Shell and said, right, you can buy a Ford cars, but you must only put Shell fuel in it. You can never put Esso or any other major retailers, BP fuels. You can only put Shell fuel in it. You can't have that kind of restriction.
The interesting thing is that the High Court ordered this.
Well, because they're listening to one party only. Nobody is standing up for the in defense of Popcorn Time. Like they very often, the ISPs over here were standing up for some torrent sites and saying, well, look, all they're hosting is torrents or all they're hosting is a hash number. They aren't in themselves breaking the law. They don't have the copyrighted content. All they're doing is providing a server that hashes the hash number and then links people together. They don't actually hold the copyrighted stuff. It just enables somebody to use their service so they can get hold of it. I mean, where do you draw the line? You don't go after the person that built the road because people are continually speeding down that road. You fix the problem with the road, or you catch the people that are speeding. You don't shut the road down. Right. They've got too much power, and unfortunately, nobody is standing up for the little guy. No one's standing up for the service that people are providing. And as they've got no opposition, the court's got no other choice apart from taking a backhander. Sorry, did I say that out loud? And ruling in favor of the media corporations. You notice it's always the same judge, Judge Briss.
Yep.
It's a bit of a coincidence, isn't it? It's always him that rules in favor of the media corporations. I'd like to look into his financials.
It's added here that it is unclear how successful the ban will be. The blocked sites are not the only places to find Popcorn Time online. Additionally, at ISP level, it will be challenging to monitor as there is not a single version or developer to seek out with a code available as open source.
They tried to shut it down on GitHub. There was another file sharing service that they had that they tried to get rid of on GitHub. I've never been to GitHub, so I don't know what it is. I think it's a repository for software and things. But you can't shut down that kind of thing, because as soon as you try and shut it down, it just goes underground. So it's still going to be available, not as easily findable, but it will still be available.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and besides, they hear about proxies that people can go somewhere else in order to get it through there, even though they're ISP.
They're shutting down proxies and adding proxy server addresses to the block list left, right, and center. Every day they're going to ban proxy sites that will proxy you through to the Pirate Bay.
Yeah.
They spend millions of pounds on all this legal action and everything like that. Why don't they spend all that money that they're wasting on something that's going to be circumvented anyway, on providing what the consumer wants, which is to watch what they want, where they want, and how they want?
Yeah, that's the big question. They, like, for example, last night, my son and his wife were over. They watch a particular series on commercial TV. I don't remember at the moment what it was, but they had seen all but the last 2 episodes, and he had been so busy at work, excuse me, he'd forgotten that the last 2 episodes, one next to the last episode, and then the season finale. So he wanted to see that. We looked on Time Warner Look Back, and sure enough, both shows were there. And they watched the next to the last show. Everything went fine. Then they watched the last show, and they had to hit pause the last 10 minutes of the finale. They had to hit pause. And when they did not get back to pause in time, the show shut down. This being a 45-minute show, they were faced with having to watch an entire 35 minutes again to get back to where they missed the show, because you can't fast forward, and they don't want you to fast forward past the crap they throw in there. So how is that?
I think the word you're looking for is convenient.
Well, how is that customer oriented? I mean, here we are, we're paying for it. We're the ideal customer. We're paying for that service, playing by the rules, and yet they want to provide us with what they want us to have instead of what we want to have.
To me, I didn't realize that was the case, but that sounds insane that you're not able to skip forward or skip back. I mean, I understand the reasoning why. I mean, as I always do, I look at it from both sides, so to try and appreciate the situation. So from their point of view, yes, you don't want them skipping past adverts. You don't want them skipping past anything else that you're putting in there. But come on, for goodness sake, make it convenient and people will pay for it.
Right.
They really have their head up. Yeah.
It's, where was it? Talking about Pandora. Pandora has revealed that it's paying a 10,000th of a dollar more to music labels and artists than it was in 2014.
Wow.
10,000ths of a dollar more. So you have to make it, you have to have 10,000 impressions to make $1. From the article, it says Pandora has revealed that its royalty payment to Sound Exchange, the U.S. licensing body which collects performance royalties on behalf of record labels and artists, have just increased by 8%. The news was confirmed in a call with investor following Pandora's first quarter fiscal results announcement on Tuesday, April 23rd, in which it posted a 3-month net loss of $48 million. In what Pandora CEO Brian McAndrews called a scheduled annual step-up, Pandora has from January 1st been paying out an average of 0.0014 per ad funded stream and 0.0024 of a dollar per premium stream to Sound Exchange. And people here are wondering why they're not making money from things that are out there when you're trying to monetize. Look at these prices that these guys are paying.
You listen to the record companies, and you'd think they were making fortunes. Well, they're not. I mean,
Yeah.
look at their financials. They'll show you that you can't cream any more money off of them because they're running at a loss anyway. The thing that annoys me is that you've got all of these sites of Groove Shark, where we're talking about that kind of thing. I see they've folded now and said, apologized to the recording industry and said, oh, sorry, we were making a mistake. What gets me is you've got all these services out there that are leading the way and sort of carving the way things are going to go and the way things are happening, and giving people what they want, and proving either in some cases like Spotify that you can just about make ends meet, or that you end up losing goodness knows how much money. Why don't the recording industry and the media organizations look at all the different services out there, pick the bones out of the good bits and the bad bits, and produce a service for the consumer that does work, is what people want. I mean, it's all out there ready for them to pick the bones out of and make a service which is good, but they won't do it.
Yeah.
Well, what they've done is chase me off as a customer. They can play all of their silly little games all they want to. I'm not going to play. I'll just do other things. When it became difficult to play music and the stations didn't want to stream, I was trying this morning before the show started to listen to a local radio station, and listening over the air I don't care anything about. I prefer listening online. The station's not even streaming. Not even streaming. And the reason I'm sure they're not streaming because the guy who owns it's too cheap to pay the licensing fees. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to fight it.
I'm thinking here. Look at this. They're paying. It's not even money for every ad that is playing during that specific piece of music. People normally don't even watch when they listen to Pandora. They just listen, but maybe they have audio ads. I don't know. But I'm saying to myself, why is it that when we want to get, let's say, a license, to pay for a license to play a certain piece of music, as in the intro or in the sign off or whatever, and it doesn't matter, you're going to have to pay hundreds of dollars a year for that license. Why not do the same? So what do we end up doing? Most people is they go for something that doesn't cost money.
Well, that's not true. Most people go ahead and do it. Most people go ahead and do it anyway.
Well, we don't.
Most people go for the convenient way, and a simple way of doing it that will cost them as little as possible. And if the only way of doing that doesn't cost is by pirating it, then they're going to do it. The thing is, most pirate methods, once you get your head around what it is you got to do, are simple. And that's the bottom end of it. Is it's simple, it's convenient, it's easy. They make it complicated and difficult.
Right. They make it impossible. I mean, if they would charge, think about it, 0.0024 of a dollar. If we played that piece of music 1,000 times, it's not real money.
It's microcents, isn't it? This is why
charge
micro payments are going to become a big thing in the next couple of years, I reckon, where you can send not necessarily a percentage of a cent, but you can send small amounts like 25 cents or something like that. I think personally that it's going to really take off, having the ability to send small amounts to people.
But I'm not even going to the future. I'm talking right now. If they had a certain license, let's say $10, $20, $50, which will cover thousands and thousands of pieces of music anyway. When you playing, let's say, maybe 100 in a year's time, at least they're getting some money. And if there are 100 people out there that do what we do, for instance, and get that level of licensing at $10, that's $1,000 a year for them. Why don't they look at it like that?
Because let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
Delta Force is an ISP, it's a web hosting company.
Right.
Do you have any, let's suppose that a customer has a website, which I'm very familiar with one that I'm working with this afternoon.
Yeah.
His website has just a couple of little small graphics on it.
Right.
It's one page. His traffic is probably 26 hits a year.
Yeah.
How much should he spend to host that website?
It all depends what kind of reliability he wants.
Well, who cares? With 27 hits a year, who cares?
Then he shouldn't spend any money. There's enough.
No, he wants a website. It's his business card. He wants his website. So he wants a website.
He'll probably.
Amnon, don't tell him he doesn't need one. That
yeah,
wasn't
no. He does. He does need one, but there are a lot of places that do it for free for somebody who doesn't care and doesn't look for any additional services with it and all that. Yeah, he'll go with a free one or pay $5 a month.
All right, he's going to pay $1 a month.
Okay, $1 a month.
Do you have any $1 a month accounts?
No.
Why?
Because I don't have such customers.
Why?
I guess I never went after them. I mean,
Why?
I see what you're driving at. To tell you the truth, I wouldn't mind having that because he will pay yearly, so it'll be $12.
Yes.
Now, after taking over a lot of the customers from RTPNet, which are nonprofit, I have quite a few that paying $20 and $30 and $40 a year.
Right.
They're still getting the same services.
Right.
And I was thinking about it and saying, look, this is ridiculous. I can't do this and give them that kind of service for that kind of money. This is like $3 a month. But when you look at it and you say, okay, it's another $30 and it's another customer. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I don't have this $30. So, okay, fine, we'll go with it. I'm looking at it. I mean, it's not taking any extra work for the billing from my side, and it doesn't take anything from them because they don't have support, quote unquote, to do with somebody who's playing music. So their investment in that contract that will bring them $20 or $10 or $50 a year is zilch. Nothing. Because nobody ever will call them to say, hey, it's not playing. Oh, hey, the note is wrong on this. There's no such thing. So, and the billing is all automatic. So why not do it and bring another $1,000 a year?
I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. Because the reason you have the business model that you do is because you have decided over time what works best for you.
Right.
But because let's take, for example, one account at $50 a month versus 50 accounts at $1 a month.
Right.
You can't provide the same level of service to 50 accounts that you can to one account.
Correct.
You don't have a staff of 27 people
correct
to manage whenever things go down and people need to know that the server's rebooting, so forth. So there is an efficiency of scale at some level.
Absolutely.
And if you were to accept $1 a month accounts for a small company, you'd better be very careful about whom you select. I mean, there's some guys out there, some web guys who can figure out how to get every ounce of value out of a $1 a month account,
sure,
which is not really the model that any host uses for these cheap accounts. They're throwaway accounts. But if they require a lot of support and maintenance, you lose money on the first call.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with you. It's something that I chose not to.
Well, hello, Nick.
Hey, Nick.
Good morning, Nick.
Not hearing you.
He's
good morning.
There he is.
There he is.
I assume we're talking about Amnon's hosting and offering up
No,
shared
no,
hosting.
no. We're talking about
hosting in general, and when using Amnon as an example.
So, I mean, the big thing is you talk about these cheap. For the longest time, I was on a host that was $40 a year. That I mean that's what it was. I mean, at the time.
So that's
was-
$3 and some cents a month.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, I was like 14 years old. So, I mean, $40 a year was big bucks. So that I was on that, and you know, I guess the support is far and few in between. The support was good. Whenever I had problems, they were able to help me. But I mean, there wasn't a phone number. It was just ticket support. But at $4 a month, if you have 1,000 clients, you know, is it worth it? Not everybody's gonna. If people are doing the $4 a month hosting, I doubt all of them are gonna need support.
Most of them probably don't.
I mean, all you would really need to do, Amnon, is if you were serious about doing something like that, you would need to find people in different time zones and pay them per ticket, like something like 50 cents, 75 cents a ticket response.
Hi, this is Peggy.
Well, Nick,
and there's no phone support, so you would hire them at 75 cents a ticket reply, and as tickets roll in over the night, they reply at 75 cents here, 75 cents there.
Nick, we did not start talking about hosting. What we were talking about that kind of went into this is I was mentioning that Pandora is paying 0.0024 of a dollar for each ad that plays. And I was saying, why can't, I mean, this is not really real money. You have to have a lot of impressions to get $1 or a cent.
Yeah, that's how all ads are.
Right. But and I was saying, why can't these organizations, institutions that are collecting the license fees do something that someone like me or you or anybody that does a podcast and they want to use a piece of music will have a license and they're going to play it at the most 100 times a year. You know, it's
but it's not based on how many times you play. It's based on how many people listen to it.
Well,
And
it's fine.
stats are
I
extremely
understand. But
inaccurate.
my point is that why they're letting others, and I understand volume. That's where they make it. But if they sold me a license for $50 a year, I'm paying a whole lot more than the.
I disagree.
Why?
If
Explain.
you're paying what if Leo Laporte was paying $50 a year to license a song? His audience is massive. That's not a good deal for the licensing company at all. Yeah, Amnon, for you, it's a great deal. But
There would have to be different levels, obviously.
yeah, but how do you? I mean,
Amnon would be an entry level. Leo Laporte would be the high end level.
but again, we talked about this 1,000 times. There's no accurate podcast stats. So what do you base it off? YouTube views?
You know what? I'll take it a step farther. I don't want to make any money from it. Let the organization make money from all these ads. Let them take all the money. I don't even want to bother
We're
with
talking about ads or licensing music now.
I'm talking about licensing the music and then the ads that are playing. I mean, in this case, it's Pandora, so it's ads that are playing during music.
Correct.
Over here, it's playing and it stops. That's it. If they want me to play, or if they are inserting an ad somewhere, let them take the money. I'm still saying that I'm only going to be playing this music one time every Sunday.
Yeah, but you don't know how many people are listening. That's where it comes down to. It's not you playing it. It's the volume of people listening.
But what brought it up and why I brought this up is saying that in this case and in many cases, people like us go after free music.
Yeah.
And at that point, look at the licensing agency or whatever you want to call them and say, okay, they can either get $50 a year or nothing. I would argue that they'll be better off getting $50 a year from 100 or 1,000 people.
No.
Because whenever the copyright, even now, whenever you license a song
Yeah.
to record under compulsory copyright license, when you record that song, there is a minimum royalty that you have to pay through, I forget, it's been so long since I've looked at it, but it's songfile.com, I believe, the Harry Fox agency that handles a lot of the licensing.
Yeah.
And I don't remember, it's either $25 or $250 or
For
250 copies, or you have to pay a minimum because of it costs them a certain amount to do business. They're not interested. Let's say, for example, you're
No. Continue that. They are not interested
in the micro-sized business because of their
I
overhead.
I agree 100%. That's the problem. And I'm sorry, Steve.
I say, in my view, it's back to front. You shouldn't have to pay a licensing fee. If you play the music, you should pay a fee. Because the people that are listening, they're the people that are enjoying it. Those are the people that hopefully will go out and buy it.
Well,
so the more you play something like payola, why do they pay to get something played on the radio? Because they know full well people will hear it and want their own copy.
Because it's so bad, they know the radio stations aren't going to play it on their own.
Yeah, but if it was the other way around and we didn't have this licensing issue, we wouldn't have anywhere near the problems that we've got now. Because like Nick was saying, how do you know how many people are listening? You know how many people are playing it because they've got it in their mandatory playlists.
Hang on a minute. I was just viewing a thread this past week with regard to licensing, and I understand licensing and I understand the copyright laws. I get that. There are a lot of competing interests here, and to look at just a narrow slice of that interest is not well serving, because here's the point. A copyright is personal property. This is my coffee cup. It's my coffee cup. If you come to my house to try to take my coffee cup, you will probably not leave in the same sort of mode that you came in. And because it's my coffee cup and it belongs to me, I get to do with it what I want to, as long as it's okay with the government. And so anyway, if it's a copyright, that's my copyright. If I don't want you using that copyright, that's my business. If I want you to pay to use it, that's my business. Those are personal property rights. Whenever you lose that, then you lose your freedom, because all you work for is to own property and for sustenance, contrary to what anything else you might believe. And so anyway, that's the overarching concern, is that it is personal property. Now, having said that, if you think a little deeper about this business of, well, look at it this way. Radio stations should be charging these music companies to play their music, because where would the Beatles have been without radio? Okay, maybe, but you have to go back to the argument that supersedes that one. That music belonged to whomever it was at the time, Northern Music or whoever owned the original rights to I Want to Hold Your Hand. I don't recall the first owner. But they wanted it played on the radio. The radio station is going to make money and have sustenance for playing that music. And what these copyright owners were able to do was to persuade the powers that be that, okay, radio stations are getting rich playing this music. They need to share it with us. And that's exactly the way the system has operated over all this time. Now, over time, the radio stations and internet broadcasters have rationalized that, wait a minute, if it weren't for us, these people would not be buying your records. Therefore, you should be paying us to play your music so that people will hear it, like it, buy it. Well, that's all fine and dandy, except for one thing. The record companies or music companies, whatever they're called now, they didn't ask you to play it. They didn't say, hey, would you play our music? In other words, they don't want your advertising. We had a competitor when I was in the radio business, and this may sound silly, like we're splitting hairs, but it's not the case, because in the radio business, back in the mid '60s, we were killing the competition big time. And what happened was they were having trouble getting into some of the bigger advertisers that we had locked up. And what they started doing at one point is they went to this advertiser and started running advertising for free for them, with the idea that, okay, once they hear it, they would get benefit from it. And then they'd say, this is a good thing. Then they would pay for it. And I'm not aware of anyone that ever paid for it because they didn't order it. They didn't ask them to run that advertising. If they'd asked them to run for it, they'd expect to pay for it. They didn't ask them to run it. They didn't pay for it. And it went away very quickly. But it's back to the same thing. Don't say, oh, we're playing your music for you, therefore you should pay us for advertising. No, if I decide to buy advertising on your show, your podcast, your radio station, I'll let you know. Until then, if you're going to take my personal property, you're going to either do it on my terms and conditions, or if there are compulsory licensing issues or blanket licensing issues, you're going to comply with those. And if you don't, I'm going to sue you. So it's really hard to, I mean, I listen to an awful lot of people taking pot shots at the record companies and the music companies. And like Amnon, I wish it were possible for Amnon to license the song by the Shadows. What is it, Shadugi?
Yeah.
It'd be nice for them to say, you know what? We made $75 in royalties off of that, performance royalties off that song last year. Amnon's willing to give us $50 a year to be able to use it for his theme song. Sounds like a deal to us. We chip in $10 each, and all of a sudden Amnon has what he wants. I would prefer that. But whoever owns Shadugi does not have the obligation to us to do that. If they don't want to spend the time and they're not interested, that's their right. That's really the end of the argument.
Heck that. Whoever owns it may want to give it to you, and they cannot because there are people above them that say, no. You have a contract with us. We have to charge.
Well, they're the people. If you get to the right person, if they make a bad deal, the artist is stuck with it because they have delegated that ability to negotiate on their behalf.
Okay,
case in point. I don't know whether any of you has ever heard of this success coach, and I don't say that lovingly, a guy by the name of Dan Miller. It's danmiller.com or danmiller.net. I don't know. He's one of these.
Yeah.
I just leave it at that. Anyway, he started a podcast, and he may have done a radio show. I'm not sure. He's good friends with Dave Ramsey, I think, or used to be, and he tried to duplicate Dave Ramsey's success, but it's not there. And anyway, he started, if he had a radio show, he used Taking Care of Business, I believe was the song by Bachman Turner Overdrive, if I'm not mistaken. He used that for his theme song. Well, when he started doing his podcast, he continued to use the theme song. Or alternatively, when he started doing his podcast, he selected that as his theme song. I just don't recall. Well, somewhere along the way, once he started having some success, people said, yo, Dan, you're this great upstanding guy and you're stealing somebody's music. What are you talking about? Well, have you licensed Taking Care of Business as a download for your podcast? Well, no, I didn't know I needed to. And I'm making this up because I haven't been part of that conversation. And so his company, Dan's company, based on what he reported, contacted the publisher of that song, the rights to that song. And according to what he told, they agreed, okay, you can continue to use it. Just pay us $100 a year. Jumped all over it. Perfect solution. Mm-hmm. But that's only because the copyright holder was willing to talk to and negotiate with him. Now, this actually brings up something I've never discussed here before and haven't really thought about until now. Let's suppose that we were using Taking Care of Business by Bachman Turner Overdrive as a theme song. And we said, oh, you know what? They ought to license it to us for $100 a year, assuming Dan were not using it. Then you go to, and they say, well, no, we can't do that. Why? Well, Office Depot is paying us $250,000 a year to use it. It wouldn't be fair to charge them $250 and to charge you $100. And I would agree with that argument. And they say, well, what difference does it make? We're not selling office supplies. No, but you can suffer in anything audio, anything media, anything publicity. You can suffer from what's called overexposure. And that is that you can hear Taking Care of Business so many times that when it comes on, you turn the radio off. Well, if the copyright owner were to license it so many times that every time you turned on a podcast, it started with taking care of business, then here comes the very highly compensated Office Depot ad with taking care of business. You say, gosh, I can't stand it. And so at that point, Office Depot is not getting what they're paying for. So it's a good argument. I mean, I understand the argument well.
Yeah. But there's enough music out there that could be used and to counter what you guys are saying about it's too small for them to even deal with it. Then if that was a possibility, then I would imagine that there will be a company out there on the internet with the right software that will take my $50 a year and your $50 a year and his $50 a year and her $50 a year and pay to the licensing agency a big amount, one amount a year. That
But Amnon,
it
how
will
big
be.
is this big amount? $1,000?
I don't know, $1,000.
You have
Well,
to get into
I mean,
I think you have to get into the hundreds of thousands of dollars before. I mean,
No,
I don't
no,
know if
no.
you'd agree
You
with me,
can
Mike.
no. Now, you can get a license for a what they call new media, and it's been some time since I looked at it, and it was $283 a year.
Okay.
And you can, and when I actually talked to people, that was ASCAP, and I asked the person, I said, for playing one piece of music a week for one time, he said, you can play it as many times as you want. So they do deal with, if we want to call $280 some small amount, they do deal with that. So if there is a company out there that represents podcasters that can collect $1,000 a year or maybe more, it's probably going to be more, and then they pay it, now you have that extra money coming a year and you don't really have to do much but billing one person. What
I don't
is
know. I just don't think $1,000 a year is worth anything to a big company.
wait
Yeah,
a
but the thing
second.
is, Nick,
Wait a second. When you are an artist and you're getting paid 0.00 whatever,
Yeah,
for
that's
somebody-
off of hundreds of thousands of listens. I mean, you're not making 0.0. Amnon, none of these artists would be on Spotify or Pandora if they weren't making money. They're on it because they're making money.
I don't know.
well, Taylor Swift.
Why would they all be on it?
Because that's the only way that they're actually getting microcents or the odd few cents here and there, because no one else is playing music anymore because of the stupid licensing restrictions. If you're a radio station, you've got to list the publisher and the person that wrote it and who sang it and which group it was and what year. You've got to list all these stupid details about each song that you play and have it in your playlist and keep it and then send it in. It's ridiculous. I mean, Amnon and I and Mike have been talking about this for the last 4 or 5 years. What they need is a basic podcaster's license that allows you to play any music, any damn time you like for $50 a year. They would make shed loads of money because people podcasting would quite willingly give them $50 a year to know they haven't got any of this stupid restrictions and copyright licensing and all that other rubbish that's going on. I would happily from the UK play $50 a year to just be able to go online and play music through Skype to some friends and know I'm not breaking the law.
Right.
But that's what you want to do, Steve. That's not what they want to do, and that's the rub.
It's
And-
too low.
and
It's
Well,
I don't know.
But no, hang on though. I don't know what the reach is of computers 2K now, but in the scheme of things, it's not a major player in the scheme of things. It's not never intended to be. It never will be.
Right.
So what we're complaining about is a lack of convenience for us. We're complaining because they won't do it our way, and they just don't care. It's because of what you're saying, Nick. The numbers aren't big enough for them to care.
what are you going to entice a top 40s artist with $50.
It's
And
not,
it's not even going to them. It's going to go to their company or some other company. So Amnon, if
Well,
I
it's
start
doing
this
that
company,
anyway.
but
It's
if I
doing that
charge,
anyway, it's going to their company or the person that holds that copyright. It's not going to the artist. That's the
exactly.
biggest problem of all.
So it's even less money. That's why it's even more relevant. And if I own this company that's charging everybody $50 a year, you know damn well I'm taking my cut too. So I'm
Yeah,
taking
but you're
my
not-
cut. Then the
but
artist
that's
is
a
taking
different
their
issue.
cut.
It's a
That's-
ramp up in numbers, isn't it? If it's $50 per person or per company, whatever it might be that's doing, not company, it's going to be $50 per podcast. Look how many podcasts there are that would have the ability and think, great, $50, is that all it is? I'll pay that for the convenience of being able to do it. There's literally hundreds and hundreds of thousands. Now you add that up, $50 a time, that's a lot of money.
I don't think hundreds of thousands of podcasters would pay
They would
$50.
for $50 rather than take a chance on getting caught.
Or I
playing
mean,
a snippet of music.
or just do what everybody else does and just use Creative Commons music.
Well, but let's dig out two other thoughts here, and hopefully people are interested in this conversation, because it sure never goes away in any of the podcasting groups that I'm in, because people don't like what the law says. They want to argue with it, and what they're arguing is what I want instead of what the people who own it are willing to do, which is a slippery slope in and of itself. But there are a couple of thoughts here. One is that starting probably 4 or 5 years ago, the discussion started that there is a lot of money in, I don't know if they're called microtransactions, because you recall that for many, many years, Amnon, you would walk into a store and it would say minimum credit card charge $10.
mm-hmm.
And the reason why is because of the processing fees and so forth. It
Right.
would eat up the profit of the item purchased with the credit card because of the minimum transaction fee, minimum 30 cents per transaction or something like that. And then starting a number of years ago, some people started looking at things like, I guess would be Apple Pay or whatever it is, where you wave your phone in front of a statue and the statue pees lemonade or something like that. But the idea was, okay, this is going to work, but a lot of people will use these buying media to purchase a 65-cent, 75-cent soft drink out of a machine. That's not going to work with a 30-cent fee. So what they started looking at is microcharges. Is there a way that we can make more money at the end of the year by allowing these microcharges instead of sticking with the conventional model of a minimum 30 cents per swipe plus 2.9 cents percent of the purchase price? So that's one issue. That may be, in effect, what Amnon is saying, that there might be enough money in small scale that it would ultimately, at the end of the year, be worthwhile for the people who are refusing to negotiate with the little guy. That's their prerogative, and it may be true, it may not be true. That's up to them. But here's the good news. Here's where it all comes down to for me. Having been in the radio business and the music radio business, and seeing how many records we would get in the mail each week from the record companies. I mean, we would just get stacks of them. And of all the records we would get in, if we got 100, then maybe 2 would end up on the radio. 1, maybe 2. And the rest of the stuff, you'd say, yeah, well, all the rest of it was crap. Well, at least 2/3 of it was crap. But at least 1/3 of it was stuff that, as far as we were concerned, was just as well done, just as good, often by the same big artists, produced in the same studios, by the same directors, on the same producers, by the same recording engineers, mastered by the same engineers, released on the same record label. Case in point, look at, for example, you might see from the old days, you would buy an album and then a CD, that the cuts on the CD were better than the songs you ever heard on the radio. With a little research, you may find that some of those cuts that you like so much on the album were in fact released as singles, but they never caught on for whatever reason, timing, whatever the reason may be. They just never caught on. And I'm saying all that to say this: once people get over the being pissed off about not being able to use Taking Care of Business as their theme song. And once they go out and spend some time, go through the royalty-free music that's out there, once they find what they want, two things will happen. And this is also a lot of what happens in marketing and trademark law. But what two things will happen once you find it? One is that you will all of a sudden realize that just because it's royalty free doesn't mean it's bad. It can be not only as good, but even better than Taking Care of Business. It doesn't evoke the emotion and feeling it had because you used to listen to Taking Care of Business when you were going out with your girlfriend 30 years or whatever all the case may be. That's one of the reasons people use music, is because it evokes this emotion. What was I doing at the time? My mother was alive, and so forth, all these things. But what you will find is that not only can the music be just as good, if not better, but the second thing, the real benefit is once you start using that theme song, over time, as you use it, people will become acclimated to it to the point that we're probably already there right now with the royalty-free theme song that Amnon uses for this show. If starting next week, Amnon were to start using Taking Care of Business by Bachman Turner Overdrive as his theme song pursuant to a legally licensed agreement with the publisher, people would say, wow, that sounds funny. What happened to the sound of the show? Because you take what you have and make it identify with what you are doing. And the case in point, to wrap up this diatribe, the case in point is that when people say, I need to pick a name for my business, I need to register a trademark, I need a logo, this one just doesn't hit me, which one should I pick? The fact of the matter is that it doesn't matter which one you pick. You pick one, you put promotion behind it, you advertise it, you properly display it, and over time, people will say, wow, where did you come up with such a great logo?
Yeah, true. All right, let's end it with that. 919-518-9773, Computers 2K Voice on Skype. Let's see. Samsung Electronics regained the #1 position in the smartphone market in the first quarter, but its market share dropped to 24% from 31% a year earlier, according to a research firm. So does that mean that everybody else dropped too?
Good.
Or they were way, way, way ahead of everybody else, but they're #1.
Those numbers are so volatile. I don't know how much credibility to attach to them and the way they measure them.
Talk about volatility. There was a story, I didn't print it out, that somehow Twitter's first quarter earnings were leaked out before the market closed. There was the company that tweets it for them. They have a company that tweets for Twitter. Did it too early. They don't know why. And because of that, the stock lost $8 billion in value. Talk about volatility.
Yeah, that would be the day to buy after it finishes dropping.
It's amazing. I mean, somebody somewhere.
Insider trading.
Well, I don't know if you
It's
call
one
it.
hell of a mistake to make, isn't it? If you're just about to sell your or buy your Twitter stock.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're there and you're seeing the Twitter drop down a bunch and you buy in, you're not doing any inside trading.
Well, you're buying it and then you sell it straight away, don't you?
No. It's
Everyone
just
thinks it's going up when Ethereum opens on Monday morning and it's falling through the floor.
that's true. Yeah. I mean, they were saying that they are investigating how this have happened. And
Somebody pushed the wrong button.
yeah, exactly.
Human error. It's always humans that make the errors.
Humans.
I'm quite upset at an article I read just before we came on the air. Microsoft are not going to be putting Media Center in Windows 10. They're shelving it.
Does anyone use it?
I do. I use it quite regularly, only because I can't be fussed to go into all the rigmarole of configuring whatever HTPC software. I can't think what it's called, Kido or something it's called now. That used to be XBMC or something. But there's a lot of people that do use it, and Windows 7 looks like it was the last time it was included. Windows 8, you could buy it as an extra, although I don't think it changed much from Windows 7 to Windows 8 version. I think it was basically the same. But there's a lot of people on Engadget who reported it that are up in arms and very upset that they're stopping it.
I've never been able to use it very well. I haven't spent the time, but my guess is, and this is not what I know, it's what I guess. My guess is that there are so many alternatives that it's not worth them continuing to fund the development of it whenever there are so many alternatives. That is to say, in terms of the media serving business, wonder what percentage of the people who do that actually use Windows Media to do that. And I don't know what the numbers are. I could be wrong. Maybe it's half the market and they just don't want to spend the money. I don't know. But I will tell you that last night we bought a new TV, bought a big TV for the great room. It takes up a whole wall, it seems like. But so my son was over last night and we were playing around with technology because it's a smart TV. We have a Chromecast installed now, and it works great. The one you gave me works great with this TV, finally. And we have the Chromecast. We have the DVD player with smart DVD player. We also have the Roku on it. So it's all wired. It's on built-in stuff. So last night my son was playing with it on his Note 4 phone. I believe it's a Note 4 phone, and doing things I just didn't totally understand. I mean, he's sitting there wanting to looking for a show, and he said, hold on a second. So he pulled out his phone. He connected somehow to the TV. I'm not sure how. It may have been through the Chromecast. I'm just not sure how he did it. And he started streaming this TV show on the screen, full 1080p from through the phone. Now I know it wasn't going through the phone per se. The phone was probably acting as a referral or a referrer, but I'm sitting there saying, well, if you got this, why do you need Windows Media Center? There are so many other alternatives. And every time I haven't used Windows Media Center in probably 6 or 7 years where I tried to use it. And even then it was always choppy. It was never smooth like a DVR. So I gave up on it. And since computers have gotten faster, then I haven't really spent time on it. But I'm sitting there looking at this because the first time I ever tried to stream anything from my phone to the TV, it was all choppy because the phone didn't have the capacity to stream the video. And this was before HD. And he's sitting there, and I don't know how it works. When I get some time to play with it, I'm going to get him to show me, but it's amazing, absolutely amazing. And I guess it's like Andrew was saying that Xbox is Microsoft's Media Center now. They all do the same thing. It was nice to have it, but maybe they just don't want to spend the money on it, or they're not getting any money out of it. I don't know.
It's all well and good if you've got connection to the internet, but if you don't, and you've just got over the air like I do with mine, it's just the Freeview channels. It's an ideal DVR basically.
But there are a lot of other alternatives.
Extremely well. There are, but none of them that come anywhere close to Media Center that I've looked at. None of them are simple. None of them have the features and functions that Media Center has. Yes, it's got its quirks, but it works really, really well at what it does. The other ones are clunky, and you've got, they're not as slick.
Is that true, Steve, or is it just that you're more familiar with it?
No, I gave XBMC a try. I haven't tried the new Kidi or Kodo or whatever it's called, and it was just horrible. I mean, the menuing system and the way it worked was it was like putting on somebody else's shoes that were a size too small. Yes, you could walk in them, but it was just not comfortable or you just could feel it just wasn't right. It just didn't have the things that you needed to have to make it a pleasurable experience.
Well, let me ask you this. Would it not make sense? And you're using it on Windows 7 or Windows 8?
7.
Why not just dedicate that computer to that function, and when it's time to get a new computer, then leave that one dedicated to that function? And the reason I say that is because I use Adobe Audition version 1.5, which is now over 10 years old. It is still, without question, the best audio editing program I have ever used, and I'm not apologetic for using it. It runs on Windows 7 and it runs fine, but because of some of the windowing crap that I don't understand, whenever you run it, it has to get rid of the arrow screen, and it changes the look and feel of the computer. So it just doesn't behave quite as well as it should. In which case, I have I've got a dual core computer with like 4 gig of RAM and a 2 terabyte hard drive that I'm probably going to just dedicate to Adobe Audition going forward, because I've got to get rid of this Pentium 4 with XP that I have over here. I only use it for email, and so it works fine. But anything that old is a problem. So I'm going to do that. But what I'm going to do though is dedicate this XP machine to Adobe Audition and make it a dedicated box. And people say, why would you do that? Well, let's suppose that you bought a TriCaster 5 years ago. I don't know if they made them 5 years ago, and the operating system was Windows XP.
It was, in fact, Windows XP.
Okay. So what are you going to do? Are you going to stop using that because it had embedded Windows XP? Or if it works, are you going to continue to use it because it does what you wanted to do with it when you bought it?
Yeah, no. You of course you keep using it.
So it's a dedicated function, and it really doesn't matter what the operating system is so long as it works.
Yeah, I mean, you don't even see Windows with the TriCaster, the old ones.
That's what I will be doing with this one PC, which was originally an HTPC anyway, with Windows XP on it. And I put 7 on it now, and it still works. But then you could throw the argument the other way around, is Windows Media Center is working fine on Windows 7. What is stopping it from working on Windows 8? Why can't they just release it as a separate entity without even changing it? Because it works fine as it is.
I don't want to.
Well, yeah, they don't want to, but they're throwing money away. I mean, they're
throwing money away. It's free.
Not in Windows 8, it isn't.
Well, exactly. But if they get released for free, then they're throwing money out. Then they're wasting time.
That's what I'm saying. Why don't they make it an option that you can still buy it? $20 if you still want to use Media Center because it works and it's good. But the only thing that Microsoft has done that actually works really well.
They must be looking at the number of people that are using it, and for them to dedicate a team to people to keep it up to date with Windows and change everything is not worth $20 a license, I would assume.
Well,
yeah,
all these. It works at the moment.
A lot of people
letting it work.
A lot of people are doing the whole media stuff with Linux now. Because it's, I mean, you can run it on anything. You don't need a big machine to run Media Center.
They're making more money than they need, and the $20 is meaningless. We're going back to the discussion about licensing music.
It's like they're giving up on. It's all well and good if you've got an Xbox, but if you haven't, I don't have any game system in the house, so I'm stuffed with that. So yeah, on this particular PC, I'm just going to keep it going until it dies, and leave it on Windows 7. I'm happy with that.
And does that work? It's a silly question, I guess, but does that Windows Media Server, does that work well for you for HD video?
It's only 720p.
Okay.
But, that works fine for me. I don't need it in absolutely top-notch quality. And you mentioned Aero earlier. There's rumors that Aero is coming back in Windows 10.
Wonderful. Aero can be useful for some things.
Well, Gene's asking, has anyone out there previewed Windows 10? I imagine somebody here is probably using it, aren't we?
I'm not. I had it in a VM.
Apparently, Tim Barber, no. Windows 10, they're dropping it completely.
Oh, okay.
They're just shelving it. Which seems stupid to me because Windows 10 is going to be compatible with other programs from Windows 7 and 8.
I think the whole thing, Steve, is keeping it up to is managing it. It's not that it won't work, but then they have to still have people that are constantly with Windows updates, making sure stuff isn't breaking, and they must be looking at the number of people that are using it, or it's not worth having 2 or 3 people dedicated to keeping this software up to date and working. That's what it comes. Not that it won't work; it probably will work, but will it? But every time they do an update, they're gonna have to patch it and make sure the drivers are still working and everything like that. That's probably more likely what it is.
Yeah, I understand. Well, it'll be interesting to see. It was only announced today, so see what kind of backlash they get from the number of people that are still using it and want it. Maybe they'll change their mind.
Or maybe something else will step up their game and say, all right, well, there's nothing else here, so maybe some other solution will move into the market.
Yep. Yeah. All right. Let's see what else we have here. Verizon recently told a customer that upgrading his 50 megabits service to 75 would result in smoother streaming of Netflix video. Of course, that's not true. Netflix streams at a rate of about 3.5 megabits on average for Verizon's fiber service. So there's more than enough headroom either way. But this customer was an analyst for the online video industry. So he did some testing and snapped some screenshots for evidence. He fired up 10 concurrent streams of a Game of Thrones episode and found
that's not Netflix.
The what?
So that's not even Netflix.
I don't know. And found only 29 megabits of connection being used. This guy was savvy enough to see through Verizon's BS, but I'm sure there are millions of customers who wouldn't bat an eye at the statement they were making. The analyst believes that the sales pitch he received is not just an isolated incident, since he got the same pitch from 3 sales reps over the phone and 1 online. And that's oh, you have 50? That's not enough. You have to go with 75.
I mean, I can. Of course, they're trying to sell higher speeds.
Sure.
But I mean, it's not like the point is like. I think it's a valid point. I mean, you update your internet. Yeah, if you're having a problem loading Netflix at 50, then maybe you do need to update. I mean, it's not like they're selling you a package. Oh, well, it's not like they're gonna say your internet's gonna be faster, and it's not. They're giving you faster internet.
Yeah, they're giving you faster internet, but it's not going to do anything to help, is it? Because if Netflix is only taking less than 5, or it only needs less than 5, adding another 25 is not really going to help, is it?
But if it only needs less than 5 and you can't load it on 50, then what's the problem?
Well, half the websites that you go to nowadays, you sit there waiting for the progress bar to go across and finish loading all the flaming stupid pictures and everything and adverts.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. Here.
Jane's asking, Andrew, what is the desktop view like? Am I going to have to use Classic Shell like on 8.1? It's like Metro's tagged on to the start bar. So you've got what looks something very, very similar to Classic View, and then it's got a little Metro interface, or they don't like calling it Metro, to the right of that. So it's like a combination of both. This is only, I haven't tried it yet. I keep thinking, shall I download it and give it a try? But I haven't done as of yet. I've just only on the articles I've been reading, but it's like a combination of both at the present. Andrew, why aren't you calling in?
Yeah.
He hates us.
He's drunk.
He hasn't recovered yet.
No, he's not.
I'm sure he is.
No, he's not. He's in his He's in his jammies.
Yeah, he he looked like he says it's his allergies. I think Jess hit him with a frying pan, but his eyes all swollen.
Yep, a frying pan will do that.
Yeah. Yeah. On another note, 2 months ago, AT&T buried fiber in my yard.
Right.
And still have heard absolutely nothing about the availability of Gigapower.
Well, they buried it and it's resting in peace.
Yeah. It makes me want to go cut it.
Did you go out and water it occasionally?
No, I may want to go out and get a post hole digger and see if I can't put up a mailbox with a 6-foot pipe going into the ground.
It's a valid point.
Yeah. Just to make sure it doesn't fall over.
You guys got a lot of bad winds down there, right? So it's gotta be real deep into the ground.
Yeah, I just doesn't. I don't understand. I know that they don't. Again, well, I do understand. They don't give a crap about the customer, but it would seem to me that whenever, I mean, this is where Apple just so plays into their customers' hands. They tell them what they want to hear. They give them what they want. That's the way a company should operate. But you take AT&T and the Time Warners and all. Here's what we got. Take it or leave it. We don't care. Don't bother us. We've got other things to do. And so that's just the way it is. And you don't really have a whole lot of choice.
Well, talking about Apple, American Airlines was forced to delay multiple flights on Tuesday night after the iPad app used by pilots crashed.
Oh, no.
Introduced in 2013, the cockpit iPads are used as an electronic flight bag. Look at that. It started in 2013. Replacing 16 kilograms, 35 pounds, of paper manuals, which pilots are typically required to carry on flights. In some cases, the flights had to return to the gate to access Wi-Fi to fix the issue. When was it that they said, yeah, people can use electronic devices?
Not allowed to use electronics on airplanes.
Huh?
So you're not allowed to use electronics on
Sure
airplanes.
you are. The
Yeah,
only thing
you are.
can't
You are.
use is 3G, 4G.
Well, they tell you to turn them off.
Not anymore.
Oh, I thought they still did.
No.
Nope. You can keep your phone on all the time as long as it's in the airplane mode.
So you don't jam up all the towers.
Well,
But this is, I mean, they've been using iPads since 2013.
That makes sense. I mean,
Yeah.
at what point it's probably, I mean, especially with like a Control F or whatever, or a find function, it's got to make that thing a whole lot easier.
My
yeah.
point is, the reason why they didn't want you to use electronic devices, they said it will interfere with navigation.
Well, that's not totally true. The reality was that it was not proven that it would not interfere with navigation, and they were not willing to take the chance nor spend the money to make a factual determination as to whether it would interfere with navigations. Over time, as avionics were designed and built to anticipate interference from other equipment and placement of antenna and so forth, then they ultimately determined that they were not an issue, so they began to allow them on a limited basis, particularly since airlines and other countries allowed them without incident. But there was actually an episode of a show called Mythbusters, as I recall, where they decided to try to test whether whether electronics would interfere with the navigation equipment. And they said, well, the acid test would be to use equipment that's old equipment that's not designed to anticipate these problems. So as I recall, they went to some sort of a boneyard or whatever of airplanes. They got some avionics mechanics to fire up the electronics, and they started moving around and decided to test the various pieces of equipment. And they were, as I recall, it's been a long time since I've seen it. If anyone else saw this episode, feel free to correct me. But as I recall, they were unable to generate any interference in any avionics using portable electronics, which they said that to the extent that the test was valid, they were not able to identify a problem with electronics. Now, I will tell you that quite a few people leave their phones on all the time. They don't bother to turn them off. I mean, there's no way to prove it. But, and I will say that I did at one point leave mine on. I thought I'd turned it off. And when I pulled it back out to play something on it, I saw that it was still on. And I don't recall what happened, but it was something about being in reach of so many towers. The phone did not know what to do. It didn't work. But then when I saw that, I said, how is it that these guys on 9/11, when these people were calling their loved ones on their cell phones from the airplane, how did that work? It may have been because they were at lower altitude. I just don't recall. But there may be more to that, not running 3G. It may be that it confuses the towers. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
I don't know, but it just seems funny that they tell us not to use it and they use it. That's all.
But at the same time, you never can tell. There's a very good possibility that every one of those iPads has been tested for radiation, for what are called spurious emissions, which is what the normal transmitting protocol would not interfere with the radio in the airplanes. It would be spurious emissions. And that is when you buy a monitor and it has these little ferrite core blocks in the cables to block all these radiations and emissions. I suspect that these, to be used in air transport, would probably have to be certified to not have excessive spurious emissions that would be likely to interfere with the airplane communications. May not be true, but would be my guess.
Oh. Your guess is as good as mine. I mean, I was reading it and I was thinking, I was thinking, it's illegal to text and drive.
Not if you use Wi-Fi.
Illegal to text and drive.
Oh, drive. I'm sorry. You're right.
And there was just a report that this policeman couldn't, had to stop his car because his tablet froze and he couldn't continue the text he was sending. Never mind.
I have a question about texting and driving. Is it illegal to send a text if you do a voice dictation?
I don't know. That's a good point.
You would think not, because it's just like taking a hands-free telephone call, isn't it?
Well, but I mean, we're sitting here guessing, but the fact of the matter is the law is very, very slow to keep up with technology. I would argue that we don't know the answer to the question.
Well, if it's eventually going to be a text message, I suppose the way the law is written at the moment is, yes, it's illegal.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's true.
Well, that depends on what the law says. I mean, it depends on what the judge says. We might be totally persuaded.
Depends which state you're in, I suppose.
If the law says no texting and driving, then
what's texting?
Texting is sending a text message.
But how do you know the definition does not say manually typing a message into a phone and hitting send?
I don't know that that's what the law says.
Right. We don't know.
Yeah. First, we have to pass it, and then we'll find out what's in it.
That's right. Then we'll find out what's in it. It's exactly what Tim is saying. Texting is typing, isn't it?
Not necessarily. Not anymore.
Well, we don't. It's kind of that's a trick question.
Yeah, it's a given.
It's a given. The answer to that.
It's a given. You're right.
We don't know the answer to that because keep in mind that there is this idea among. Andrew is saying that voice dictation is okay. That's not necessarily true. That if one judge says nope, it's the same as far as I'm concerned. It's the distraction. Well, I mean, we won't get into all this because it gets really hairy, but you will see that in many states where they have passed laws outlawing texting and phones and things of that nature, they have said that you can make a phone call, but you can't send a text message. And the idea is you're not distracted by the keyboard. And there's even something in the law in North Carolina about you can do any sort of communication that has to do with pressing a single button as opposed to typing into the keyboard. So I don't know the answer to the question yet. And with this crowd that's in Raleigh now, I don't know that we'll ever get any straight answers to anything.
Well, we may.
I doubt it.
Talking about the merger that never happened. Goes in 2008, Comcast sued the Chattanooga Electric Power Board, EPB, to prevent it from building a fiber network to serve residents who were getting slow speeds from the incumbent cable provider. Comcast claimed that EPB illegally subsidized the build-out with ratepayers' funds, which I don't understand what's wrong with that. But it quickly lost in court, and EPB built its fiber network and began offering internet, TV, and phone service. After EPB launched in 2009, incumbents Comcast and AT&T finally started upgrading their services. EPB officials told ours when we interviewed them in 2013. But not only until this year has Comcast had an internet offering that can match or beat EPB's $70 gigabit service. Comcast announced its 2 gigabit fiber to the home service on April 2nd, launching it first in Atlanta, then in cities in Florida and California, and now in Chattanooga, Tennessee. So this is what competition does. First, they try to block you so they don't have to upgrade, so they can sell you the slow speeds at high rates. But here, they couldn't do that, so now they had to upgrade there. And I'm still saying this is what's going to happen here or anywhere else. Somebody has to come into town and offer the higher speed, and before long, you'll see all the other ones follow. Only thing is what they don't understand is when the first one comes into town and offers the high speed, a lot of and people are going with them. There's not many things that can happen to make these people switch unless the service is really bad. So who knows when I'm going to see the higher speed, when you're going to see it. Like you said, the cable is in the ground. That doesn't mean much, does it? They have to actually activate it and dig it to the house and make it all available, and they don't want to do it. I remember when I was talking to the guy from Gigapower from AT&T when he was outside. If it's true that the upgrade to Gigapower is going to be free for people that have UVerse, he said no. I don't know who told you that. He said
I've never heard that either.
And he said the only thing I heard is that they're going to give 3 megabits to anybody that wants it for free. I don't know that's, and I said, you mean they're going to dig and put fiber to every house that wants to get it for free? Where are they making money? He said they have they have the money to spend, but the thought there was people that have 3 megabits sooner or later will want to upgrade it. Because today you can't do much with 3 gig. Yes, you can do a lot, but not much.
You can do all your email.
Yeah. But again, here they are. They're running it to every house. They have the network. And sooner or later, they make money from these people. They'll make more money from these people.
It's temptation, isn't it? If you've got something for free and you know there's something slightly better for a reasonable cost, you'll go for it.
Correct. Absolutely correct.
The problem is the reasonable cost has to be reasonable.
I mean, $70 for gigabit sounds good to me. Sounds great. What do you know?
But at the same time, the company has to be customer oriented.
Yes.
And when they won't even tell you when it's going to be available, then that doesn't inure to their benefit.
Yeah, but you're not talking to the right people that could answer that question. The people
Give me a number, Amnon.
I know. The people that we talk with are people that have to get the information from up above. I mean, I don't have access to the CEO of Time Warner, and I'm not sure the CEO knows when it's going to happen, or AT&T, the higher. I don't know that they know. It's a fluid situation, I'm sure, and they think, okay, now look, they have it at Chattanooga, we have to go in there. Forget Raleigh. Let's go where it already exists, and we don't lose customers.
Well, I mean, this is me, and I've been very clear on this show about how I feel about certain things like Time Warner, and I will tell you that Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday is a big day with Time Warner, in that they're going all digital. The analog portion of their cable is disappearing in our community, which enables them to provide these max upgrades where it's 200, 300 megabits per second.
So they say.
What?
So they say that's what it's for.
No, they're doing it in other communities. If you read DSLreports.com, you will find out that it's legitimate.
Okay.
And so anyway, to be very clear, I mean, yes, I want gigabit, but if I'm paying $52 a month right now for 30 down, 5 up, if they take that to 200 down, 20 up for no additional cost, you know what? I'm not so hot to trot for gigabit.
No, 200 is definitely enough for what we need.
And 20 up, with 20 up, I can finally start doing meaningful online backups without killing everything in the house.
Yeah. Oh, so you heard that it's going to be asymmetric too?
Oh, and no question it's asymmetric. That's why I hate them. Unquestionably, it's asymmetric. And even in some cases, whenever they first provide 200 down, the 5 up doesn't change. But supposedly it's as I understand it, it's 20 up and 200 down, or 20 up and 300 down.
Well, that's not what Gigapower is.
No, that's one gigabit up and down.
Yeah. Yeah, so you go with Time Warner, and then when AT&T comes with theirs and the price is comparable, you go with them.
Well,
if you need it, again.
What I've always said is, and this is why you have to be careful what you say, but what I've always said is, whenever there were rumors of RST and AT&T and Time Warner and Google and all these providing high-speed service, I said the first one that provides high-speed service, I'm buying it, even if it's AT&T. Well, I may have to eat that a little bit, because now I don't like the way they're behaving. I don't like the way they cannot even tell us anything, because they circulate all these rumors out there. Oh, it's only going to take 30 days, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So bottom line is that if as much as I dislike Time Warner, if this upgrade comes along pretty soon, I'm still going to do the 1 gigabit up and down, but I'm going to drag my feet. Maybe I'll tell AT&T when I'm ready. How about that? And so when they're calling me about 2 or 3 times a week now, asking me to upgrade, quote unquote, to their 12 megabit service. And I got to sneeze.
Interesting. You're saying that they're calling you to upgrade to 12 megabits?
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know if they're talking fiber or what, but I mean, I got to sneeze again.
Well, I mean, they do have a 12 and 18, but that goes along with the 3 megabits up.
It's pitiful. And the guy told me that their 12 megabit down was better than Time Warner's 30 megabit down.
Oh, gee, right. Yeah, they're
The guy
being.
argued with me. I mean, he in essence called me a liar on the phone. I said, well, I said, I know you think a lot of your company, but I don't think enough of you that you guys are changing the laws of physics.
Yeah.
And oh yeah, but you got this network, you got network nodes, and I said I'm not on an overloaded node. Yeah, but you're not getting that download speed you think you are. I said, oh yes, I am. I test it. I do media online. I have to test it. Not only do I have to know the latency, but I also have to know the quality of the connectivity, the consistency of the download and the upload. And I measure that, and I find, no, you're not really measuring that. You think you are, but you're not. We're really better than that because we're straight back to the server as opposed to Time Warner. You're on a pooled network. And I said, well, I understand overloaded nodes. Used to be on one.
Yeah.
And yes, at 8 o'clock at night, you could see slowdowns. In my case, it was never dramatic. And since they've gone to DOCSIS 3.0, I have never seen it. Oh yeah, it's there. It's there. You just don't realize it's there.
At this point, I would say, I was actually considering it, but your attitude kills it. Bang, hang up.
Well, they don't care. It's a numbers game for them. If you want to hurt them, keep them on the phone arguing with them. They get paid by how many suckers they can reel in an hour. So if you want to, same way when these telemarketers, they call in and say, yeah, we have this special for you. Well, really, is that? Tell me about it. Well, I don't understand that. Tell me again. So as I understand it, it's one. No, it's no. Okay. The longer you keep them on the line, the more you hurt them.
So who downloaded, used, has more information about Edge?
Andrew.
So is Andrew still with us?
I don't know. He's
Should
probably
be.
drinking.
I did not look into it because, I mean, the browser is a browser is a browser. But it's interesting to know if there's anything special about it. They're making
I'm like
big
you.
they're making a big deal on TV about it.
What's the big deal?
They just, this Edge and it's going to do. I don't really listen to commercials, but they're making a big deal about it. I mean, you see it again and again and again. Yeah, Andrew. So what's so special about? It's good.
Yeah.
Did you have to put salt on it or pepper or what? I mean, what do you mean it's good?
Yeah, thanks for that detailed information.
Oh, no, go ahead. Finish that. I got another thing.
It's not called IE anymore.
Right.
Well, the name that it's just fast. Yeah, I mean, the less that it does, the better. I wonder if it allows the same sort of add-ons and extensions that Chrome does. See, Chrome is god awful now. Chrome is just horrible. I mean, every time you open a tab, it has a new instance running on the computer, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 24. I got 24 tabs open most of the time in Chrome, so it just breaks the computer.
That's not. See, I disagree. You think that's what makes it awful. I think that's what makes it the best browser. It's meant for a fast computer.
Machine down?
Yeah, the whole point is it's going to be nice and quick.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
24 Chrome tabs should not be slowing your computer down. I mean, you have an i7.
I know.
And plus the processes all aren't tabs. You have extensions running in the background and stuff like that.
Not many. Anyway, on a more important thing. So, Steve, are you celebrating the birth of Britain's first princess since 1950?
No.
Okay.
But thanks for asking and noticing.
Yes. And the question is, how do you stay grounded when a whole city lights up because you were born?
I saw one mention of it yesterday in one of the RSS feeds from a very sarcastic person that likes to report about anything to do with political or religious or royalty. And it was, I think he just said, "Oh my," or "OMFG, the princess is born." And that's the first I heard of it, and I didn't look into it in any detail because it doesn't interest me in the least.
Well, let me ask you this on a tangentially related question. What exactly do the royalty contribute to the UK?
Predominantly, it's pomp and circumstance because it's been going on for centuries, and they're very good for bringing the tourists in.
So they're good for tourism. Okay.
That's about it.
That's
basically.
true. It's true.
No, it's a good one. I've never heard that. And that's actually a great answer because I agree. I mean, we went to Windsor Castle and all that crap. What's the Buckingham Palace? We went to all those. So.
Mm. I mean, they bring in a huge amount of tourists. Never a day goes by that it's not completely filled with somebody from Asia clambering there with their cameras and things. But I'm not a royalist, as you've probably guessed. I don't think there's anything wrong with it because they do bring money into the country. They bring trade and stuff like that. We'll deal with this because of our long history of stuff. But it doesn't bother me one way or the other, really.
Do they bring in more than they take out, though?
Yeah, probably across everything. They cost us a lot of money in the taxes that we pay to keep them living in their wonderful palaces and keep them in their opulence. But, you know, it's historical. And I think history needs to be learned from and remembered. So in that aspect, yeah, they can stay.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if they closed the palace and sent all the royals somewhere else and they don't hear, I mean, England is going to be just another country.
Yeah. Gene, I don't think they're going to call the new Princess Diana. No. I don't know why. It's just something strikes me that they won't.
How about Obama?
No, Paul. They'll probably call her Victoria, I expect. No one knows
So
yet.
back to
Or
Queen
Elizabeth.
Victoria.
Probably.
Huh.
Certainly not going to call her Ethel or Gertrude.
Penelope.
Yeah, can you imagine a Princess Gertrude? That would be funny.
I think it's because of King Victoria that we eat chicken with our hands, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Finger licking good.
Yeah. Yeah.
One thing you can be sure of, the news will be full of it worldwide for the next 3 days, maybe.
Sure.
Not at my house.
Well, the news will be reporting it. Whether you watch it or not, it's entirely up to you.
I would rather watch Lizard Lick Towing.
Sports.
No, Lizard Lick Towing.
See
I
what
saw a little clip of it once, but it didn't really appeal, so I didn't continue.
Hate to tell you, Amnon, but it got canceled.
So, I mean, I already been on it. Well, my car's been on it. Hey,
I
Andrew.
hope you're not going to breathe. You're not going to breathe in and out here, are you, Andrew? Spreading all your allergies.
Oh, it's so bad. It's awful.
Now you got me started.
I don't know if you could see my eye. This one is swelled shut.
Why?
It's just burning so bad.
You need the good rain.
Well, don't rub it.
I didn't think y'all had any trees up there. Where are you getting all the pollen from?
We have a lot of maple. We have maple trees. We got
The
Birch.
grass.
we got. I mean, there's a park right across the street. Here,
Do you guys have dingus trees there?
look at all the trees. I'm dying.
Oh dear, that's not good if you suffer with allergies. I'm very fortunate that I don't. and
They think
haven't.
it's one of the worst years ever recorded. Right now, the count, the pollen count is 11.6.
Global warming. It's true.
So bad. And then we're putting up a fence today. I got 2 guys here putting a fence up.
It's Sunday. You're not supposed to work on Sunday.
Well, they were supposed to get the job done on Saturday. Hi, Nicholas.
Hello. How are you?
So what's so great about Edge?
There's nothing so great about it. It's just a very good browser. It's quick, and it's a very good version of IE. It's a cleaned up IE.
The problem is it's going to be quick until there's a bunch of add-ons. Chrome was great until, I installed 15 add-ons onto it. But it's it's luxury. That's
Well,
what
I'll give an example. Okay, Chrome for the longest time was the fastest browser for me. Chrome has gotten heavy in general. I don't use extensions. All I use is an ad blocker, and that's it. And Chrome has gotten pretty heavy for me. It's a crazy thing to say, but Safari is the best thing on the Mac. If you want the fastest and best experience on the Mac, use Safari. For Windows, this is the approach Microsoft is taking now, where their browser should be the best browser on Windows.
Yeah.
They've gotten serious about bringing down the CPU usage, just not making it a big fat-loaded browser, and they're just going all simple. But the Project Spartan, which is Edge, is now all across the platform. So it's on the tablet, it's going to be on Windows Phone, it's going to be on desktop. So it's going to be the same experience throughout, and it's going to be efficient on everything throughout.
I'm not sure.
I am a very big fan of Windows 10. It's enough for me to say, you know what, it's possible my next computer is not going to be a Mac. I'm just going to go back to a PC. It's very good. Very, very good.
So will it run under Windows 7 or 8?
I don't know. I don't know if that's going to happen. I'm sure it will, because the next version of they're stopping development for IE. So IE, what are we up to? 11 or 12? 11.
We're up to 11.
Okay, so IE 11 is the last version of IE. From what I remember, they're still going to support IE, so you could still have IE on the computer, but you're going to be given the option of using Edge. That's a couple months ago. I don't know if they've changed the direction with that, or by the time that it releases, it's going to change. But as of right now, we're looking at 2 months. We're 2 months away from Windows 10. July is released, so RTM is coming up by the end of the month or early June. I would say, as of right now, I would say from my experience, this is the best version of Windows they've ever done.
But I would argue that my affinity for IE/Edge is the same as it is for any browser. If they don't want to produce it, don't produce it. There are plenty of alternatives out there. Alternatives are as good or better.
Yeah. I mean, they've done a really good job with it, and I'm glad. But they're going to have an uphill battle, because people know the reputation Microsoft has with IE. It was, I never liked IE. The last version of IE I probably used was IE 6, and it was a disaster. Firefox really killed IE, and then now Chrome killed Firefox, and now Microsoft approaches, let's rebrand it, let's start something new, something light, and try to take over the market again.
But I've never understood all of the criticisms of IE. Because, it's a security problem. Well, how is it a security problem? If you don't click on the crap, it doesn't download to your computer through IE or any other browser. I don't understand the criticism.
I think the criticism started, Mike, when with Firefox 3, Firefox 2 and 3 were really, really lightweight compared to IE on Vista. I mean, it was really lightweight, so your overall browsing experience was much better. Pages would load quicker. The ability to have extensions and add-ons really went a long way for them. And IE didn't for a long time. You were not able to add these extensions.
Right.
You still don't have this vast library of extensions. So
I understand.
It was a slow transition for them. But IE 6 and 7 were just pigs. They were awful.
In what way? But I mean, just because it.
Sluggish.
Well, I never experienced that. I never experienced that, particularly in IE when you go into the connections tab and tell it to turn off automatically detect whatever that connection thing is at the top, which you don't need anymore.
Well, I'll give you an example, Mike. IE11, we have tremendous compatibility issues with IE11 on my website. There are times that videos load. There are times that videos do not. I've worked on this with John for a year now. We cannot figure out why it's doing that. There's no rhyme or reason. It just says video format not compatible. Video format not video playback not available or something like that. That's the error that we get. We have a ton of compatibility issues on our website with IE11 that we don't have on any other browser. It's just there are some weird things that they do with it. And I've heard this with a lot of other people that IE11 has a lot of issues with certain websites.
Yeah, well, I've never experienced that. IE has been the most compatible browser I've ever used. Then, but to finish the comment I was making a while ago, if you're using IE, in fact, it actually may apply to multiple browsers. But if you'll go to the Internet options on your computer, on your Windows computer, it'll bring up the Internet options window. You will see a tab that says Connections. When you click on that Connections tab, this is where you set up dial-up and virtual VPN settings. Down at the bottom, there's a button that says LAN settings. LAN settings do not apply to dial-up connections. Choose settings above for dial-up. You click on that button and it brings up 3 check blocks. One is to automatically detect settings. The second is to use automatic configuration script, and the third is to use a proxy server. This is where you would set up a proxy server if you were going to use it for your computer. This proxy server section is also where a lot of malware operators use to redirect your browser to their sites to hijack your browser. And a lot of times you can solve a problem by unchecking that block to use a proxy server. But out of the box, Windows has this automatically detect settings checked, and with 24/7 connections on our computers, you really don't need that. If you uncheck it, you will find that you'll get to websites quicker because there's not this stop and think about it pause that your computer will do before it goes to a website.
Right. Don't have anything checked. I'm reading some stuff here, and it's interesting. The CEO of SurveyMonkey died. 47 years old. Jeez.
Yep.
Blimey, that's no age at all, is it?
You what?
I said that's no age at all, is it?
Yeah. You know, a lot of people don't know SurveyMonkey. Oh, no, I'm thinking about something else. Mozilla to limit new Firefox features to secure sites. I did read something about the fact that Firefox is going more and more toward HTTPS. So Mozilla is leading the charge for web encryption. The Firefox maker on Thursday announced a plan to favor websites that enable HTTPS. There's a pretty broad agreement that HTTPS is the way forward. Richard Barnes, Firefox security lead, wrote in a blog post, citing statements of support from different WC3 and U.S. government. Eventually, Mozilla wants to make new Firefox features available to encrypted websites only. Then it wants to phase out access to certain existing browsers features to non-secure sites. I wonder what, I mean, we talked about it before. I wonder what it's going to do to the speed of surfing. Because HTTPS is a lot slower. and at the same time, I mean, heck, if you have malware on your website, HTTP or HTTPS, I don't think it makes a difference. If you click on it, you're going to get it.
By the way, I'm reading something about UVerse and DSL reports.
Yeah.
And Spencer's not here. This is something that he should look into at some point. And it says that here's a guy who says that UVerse is not available. I'm having similar issues with so many others here. I have verified that 16 of the homes in my subdivision have UVerse. In my yard is a UVerse PED with fiber supply. Also, the neighbor just to my north, whose yard is common to mine, is connected to UVerse. There is a newer subdivision and my home is located on the main road. And one of the responses is they may be out of ports to be able to give you service. It doesn't matter how close you are to the equipment. If it's full, it's full. There's also the possibility that your house isn't in their database correctly. See if they can escalate to a higher level. And there are several other responses. But then one guy says, have you supplied proof of nearby residences that have service? I had to do this. I just moved into my house last year and could only get DSL according to the website. So I signed up. A few weeks later, I was at a neighbor's house and saw his UVerse DVR. That's when I checked online and noticed all of my neighbors had UVerse available. I called the sales department to set up UVerse, told them I had DSL, yet all of my neighbors were on UVerse. They put me on hold for a few minutes while they contacted another department and confirmed my home address would work. It was an issue with their database not reflecting current information. Pretty sure UVerse had been in that area for years, yet it still showed it as unavailable at my address.
Yeah, I mean, I had to argue because they said that there is no 45. I can get 6, and that was the top. And I said, nah, the people across the street from me have 45, so don't tell me I can't. And they had to send a senior tech to come out and survey the area, and they found out that there were 2 addresses for our house.
That's the same problem with mine. They've got my house listed as a business address.
Yeah, this here was 5421 first floor telephone room. And I'm saying, what are you talking about? What telephone room? Where'd that come from? I said no. So he looked it up and he added to the database while he was here and called in, and they said, oh yeah, this address that you just entered can have 45, and that's what they did. I'm wondering, though, if that person who is talking there in that article is talking about UVerse or UVerse Gigapower.
This was UVerse.
Okay.
But it's the same database.
Well, no, the point is that you can have UVerse like I have, but you can't get UVerse Gigapower
yet,
because that's a whole different story and a whole different type of equipment on the street.
I'm checking my next door neighbor to see if they can get Gigapower, and they say no.
What about across the street?
I don't remember what they're. I'll check it, but we've always see part of the problem we've had with AT&T, and it's not their problem, but is that whenever they were only dealing with copper, we were in a neighborhood that was kind of a feed through. They weren't out of copper pairs, they were out of working copper pairs. They had a lot of cable damage over the years, so certain pairs they might have, I don't know, 48 pairs, 96 pairs, whatever the number is in the pedestal, but only 75% of them worked, so they weren't able to meet the demand, meaning that with low quality lines they had cut back on the rating on those lines. They weren't willing to provide digital services over them. But now all that is out the window with fiber, and they have no excuse, and they can't complain about me being too far away from the node because that's in my front yard.
I got a letter from Time Warner yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
and it said, "Dear FiOS customer, switch over, and we'll offer you tremendous speeds."
Tremendous.
And the speed they offer, they go switch over from your FiOS and get tremendous high-speed broadband, uncomparable to others. And you look, it's 15 by 5.
That's high-speed broadband.
Yeah. I have 150 by 150 right now.
That sounds like a great deal, Andrew. You should switch.
Jump on it.
For how much, Andrew?
I don't know, $64.
I just checked across the street. Nothing is available across the street either. Oh well, it'll just fine if
It'll happen sooner or later. It will happen.
if I'm going to be true, if Time Warner provides high-speed service, then at this point in time, if they provide me with 220 for the same as I'm paying, I'm not so sure how quickly I'm going to be jumping over to Gigapower.
No? That's what I told the last guy I saw out there. I said, well, Time Warner is going to beat you to it.
They don't care. I talked with a guy who actually works in AT&T Data. He's a buddy of mine. He knows they're telling him absolutely nothing about Gigapower. He's works for the company. He's about ready to retire. He's been with them so long.
Oh. It's almost like there was a race for a few months, and then somebody canceled the race, and everybody just slowed down and went back to the stables or to the garage or whatever.
Yeah. Well, because a lot of that was probably prompted by them digging up neighborhoods burying fiber cable. That's probably, and now that they're almost done, my understanding is that most of the crews right now are working over in Chapel Hill.
Well, got to give the liberals high speed.
It's inside, and they're actually working inside the fence now. Inside
the fence.
Yeah, you don't remember that joke.
I don't know what that is.
Back whenever North Carolina was proposing to build the zoo in Asheboro,
Yeah.
Jesse Helms made a comment publicly that we don't need a zoo, we just need to build a fence around Chapel Hill.
Oh boy. All right. It's that time again.
It is that time, and now Andrew's gotten my allergies acting up. I don't even have allergies.
Andrew,
Yes, sir.
put another scratch in your belt.
I know. I'm dying here. It's so brutal.
Did
wish I
you
was
take?
able to-
Are you taking anything?
You know what? I've taken everything. I've taken Flonase. I've taken Claritin.
Wow.
I'm putting in allergy drops in my eyes. Nothing is helping.
You started drinking?
No, I'm not drinking. I haven't drank in.
There's your problem.
Maybe that's why I have not been drinking.
That's the problem. I don't know what the
Dry
question.
house I'm in.
All right.
Very, very possible.
But the thing about the allergy medications, they make you so drowsy. I have no energy to do anything.
Right.
I tried to go to the gym this morning, and I could barely, do anything.
Yeah, that'll do it to you.
Bernie
Definitely.
Sanders is running as a Democrat.
I thought somebody said that Obama is going to run as a Democrat, as a Republican.
No, even if he changed parties, you can't. The limitation is on the person, not on the party.
Yeah.
Bernie Sanders he's independent. He's a communist and self-avowed, and so he's going to run as a Democrat. I guess there's not much difference. More power to him. I mean, the guy's got some attention of some people, and
He said he's not
he said he's not what?
a Democrat.
Oh,
He's a registered independent.
Bernie
running
says,
along.
no, I'm not. Oh, Mike.
Yes, Gary. All right,
All
let's
right.
do it.
Well, that was fun. But it's time to go and do some honeydews.
Where's Spencer?
Spencer is doing honeydews. He's working on his son's.
Spencer's here laying
deck.
in bed.
On the, they're building a deck outside, and
Well, that's good. It's outside.
it was a good day, good weekend to
I don't know
work.
why you guys are constantly asking where Spencer is. He's right here next to me.
Oh, is he
Let me
sleeping?
get my-
Yeah, he's sleeping. He's napping. He said he doesn't have any deals for you guys today. Oh no, you're talking about the person Spencer, not the dog. Okay.
Yes.
Well, when Andrew says that, we don't know. Is he talking about Spencer the dog, Spencer Coburn, or Spence Shoemaker? Anyway, all right. Any last words from anybody? Steve, Nick?
Have a good week, everybody.
And guys, remember to practice safe computing.
Oh yeah. And everybody needs to tune in at 7 p.m. on Tuesday for Nick's infection podcast. But that's it for today. Thanks, everybody. Good morning, Kathy, Hannah, Nabil, Mac, Norm, Katie, and Donna, everybody in the chat. Thank you, everybody, for tuning to Computers 2K Now. We hope you enjoyed and maybe learned something from our time together. Remember to practice safe computing. Back up your hard drive and update your virus scanner. We'll be back here next Sunday at 9, but you can always reach us at computers2know.com. While you're at it, like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel. At 1 o'clock today, it is Brunch with Gisela, and tonight at 8 o'clock, it's the Tanya Love Show. See you, everybody.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. Our weekly lineup of call-in programs includes Computers 2K Now with Amnon Nissan, Health In with Debbie Bruck, Breaking Free with Marilyn Shannon, Lessons of Vietnam with NCVVI members, The Tanya Love Show, Your Healthy Pet with Gisela DiCarlo. And if you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it at www.nissancommunications.com. Sponsored by Atomus.com, makers of quality video recorders and converters for professionals, CarolinaApparel.com, and DeltaForce.net.